Hi, my name is Kelly Prowse, and I wanted to show you a fairly quick edit on this photograph I have here. I took of a beautiful senior, and I am using the Greater Than Gatsby Photoshop Actions. I have a few of their sets. You can find them at greaterthangatsby.com. They have amazing Photoshop actions, and they help out for people like me who's not a Photoshop expert that can use a little bit of help with their photos and with actions. So I highly recommend checking their website out, and they have a few tutorials on here in the support section. Um, and They have the Photoshop actions. They also have Lightroom presets too. I personally do not have Lightroom, so I purchased the Photoshop actions. And I use the Photoshop actions on almost every picture of mine anymore. And hardly use any of the other actions that I have. I actually have a lot more, but I don't really use a lot of them, except for the Greater Than Gatsby. So, I am going to show you a little bit, it's kind of a blind edit, so I don't really know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. I have already started working on this image a little bit. I got rid of a whole bunch of little white specks around here that I thought that were taking away from her. So, as you can see right there, see all the little white specks. So I got rid of those. Okay, and there we go. Alright. So, the first thing that I do is clean up her eyes and just do a little bit to her face. Not a lot at all. Um, I have found that I like the Innocence retouch for facial retouches. They have a lot of different things for eyes in the different workflows and different sets, but I personally like the eyes edits, as you'd call it, in the Innocence retouch. So, right in there. Um, and most things I use are in there. So, I've noticed already though that she's got some red right in here. She had a sunburn and it wasn't quite gone. So we're actually gonna try to correct that right from the get-go by using the soft red reducer. Sometimes there's other ones that work better. Um, Sometimes the color cast corrector works better than this. They're basically about the same, but I guess it just has to do with how much opacity and stuff too. I'm not sure if they're actually made different or not, but it seems like there's a difference. So anyway, so I press play, and it gives you directions on here what to do. Some of them have this, some of them don't. So I just press continue. It'll work its way there. Okay, and because this is black, I'm going to use the white. I'm going to use the opposite, so I'm painting that off. Alright, so I will bring my opacity, the brush opacity, all the way up for this. It's a soft brush. And I'm just going to try to paint some of that red away. Okay. Alright, there it is. Painted away the red. Sometimes if it's too dark, it can almost look gray, and I'll show you. Okay, so this one didn't. You can see a little bit of gray right in there. Sometimes it totally takes out, totally desaturates the whole thing. So I'm just going to bring it back down to 60 where it was because I like that. It's not too gray right in that area. I'll zoom in just a little bit to show you. Okay, so here's the before. See all the red there? And there's the after. just takes all that red out. And I notice there's a little bit of yellow too, and you can see just a little bit in this area. It could be from the yellow in this. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try to reduce that yellow also. So I'm gonna use the soft yellow reducer corrector. Please play. Okay, and same thing. This is black, so I'm going the opposite using a white brush to erase it, and just a little bit in this area. There. Alright, and that's it for that. As you can see before, there's not a lot of difference, but you don't need a lot. And there's the after. Before and after. Alright, so back to the eyes. Alright, so the first thing I usually do, actually I'm going to go ahead and put a little tiny bit of blush on her. In the skin tone. Again, this is in the Innocence Retouch. It's just my favorite. I'm going to use the blush on her. Run that. And usually I make it just about the size of the apple on her cheek. Paint it on. Just a tiny bit. And I'm going to zoom out. The before and the after, and it's a little bit too much for me, so I'm going to bring the opacity of that layer down just a little bit, maybe right about there. Let's see, before and after. Yep, that's all we need, just a little tiny bit of color in there. Alright, so the next thing is the eyes, and what I usually do is run them all first and go back and work on each one. So the first is the base eye foundation. I run that, and this works on the whole eye as a whole. It kind of brightens and contrasts. Alright, so the next one I work on is the shape light, iris shape light. So I'll run that. Again, I'm going to run them first, and then I'll go back to each one and work on them. The next thing I do is I darken the rim. Play that. The next thing is the soft sharpen. Play that. And the eye whites, the minimize redness. Personally for me, this is the only one that I need. I usually don't use the Purify Brighten. I usually only need the minimize redness. Otherwise it can almost look like your eyes are fake. And I don't like that. I think this one's enough. I usually use the lashes and the brows, but I think in this picture her brows look dark enough. There was a few photos that I did where she was out in the sunlight, and the sunlight actually lightened her eyebrows, so I used the rich in color on that. And also the lashes. On this photo itself, I will not use those two because I think that her eyelashes stand out enough, and I don't want to take away from her beautiful eyes. Alright, so here we go. We're going to come down here to the base foundation, click on that. Zoom in nice and tight. Okay, and I'm going to bring my brush size down to about her eye size, is right there. And just paint over it. You don't have to be real careful. You don't want to go too far down, because that might brighten way too much and it might look very fake. Okay, so as you can see, it just kind of brightens and contrasts the eye area. Alright, so the next thing is the iris shape light. Click on that, and I'm going to zoom in even more. Okay, and bring my brush size down. I usually bring it down to about 3/4 of the size from here to this point. So I don't need it the whole size, I just need part of it. And what this does is it kind of lightens and brightens a little bit in the iris area. And what you're going to do is you're going to make a U shape. And that's it. Okay, come over here, and again, make a U shape. And it really brings out the colors too in her eyes. As you can see, she's got green and brown. It's kind of neat. So with the same shape light brush, I am actually going to use this on the catch light also. It kind of just brightens a little bit. And the same over here. Just kind of brighten that catch light a little bit. Alright, so the next thing is the darken rim. Click on that and bring your brush size down even more, not a lot, and you're actually just going to go right along the edge here and darken this area. And what I do with this is I also use this for her eyeliner area and the pupil. Okay. You can also do down here. For this one, I'm not going to. Okay. So on this eye, darken that outer edge rim area. Okay, and darken the eyeliner and the pupil. Alright, so I'm going to actually erase some of that off right in here. I kind of went out of the lines a little bit. Make sure it's not up there. Alright, so those are done. And you can see what a difference that makes with the eyes. You don't want to bring them out way too much, because you don't want them looking fake. So don't do too much to it. But you do really want those eyes to stand out. She's got such beautiful eyes too. Alright, so the next thing is the soft sharpen, iris soft sharpen. And bring your brush size up a little bit. And you're just going to paint over this area, just the colored area. And what it does is it kind of brings out, oops, I'm sorry, my paintbrush is on black still. I need to be white, opposite of the mask here. Okay, so just paint over that, and you'll notice it really brings out some of the colors in there. I'm sorry about that, that was my phone going off. Okay, so just paint right over that. So you can see it really brought out the colors and the little lines in there. And the last thing is the eye whites, the minimize redness. So I'm going to zoom in even farther and bring my brush down. And what this does is sometimes you'll have a lot of red in the eyes, and you know, you have the veins that are all red in there. And what it does is it takes that redness out. You will still see the lines from the veins, but they won't be red or as red. So what you're going to do is just bring your brush down and paint around there, around the whole eye white. And sorry, that was my phone again. As you can see this red here, and then I painted the red out there. Okay, so go along the whole eye like that, and you can see there's going to be some red right in this area. It doesn't take out lines, it just takes out the redness. Okay, and I'm going to see if this will correct that too, because I'm getting some color down there. That helped. Okay, so now this part of the eye, you have to be really careful. Okay, you got your eye white right here, alright? And then this right here is not part of your eye white. This is actually flesh that goes over top of the white. So do not paint this. Leave that pink. Leave the little bit of red in there. Just go around it. Okay. Stop right at that fleshy area. You don't want to paint over that. That's not, and I think I accidentally did paint over it a little bit right there. same thing with the other eye. Turn it back to white. You can see some red in here. Just takes that red right out of there. Leaves any lines and detail, but it takes the color out. Kind of like a desaturation almost. Alright. And right up to the flesh. Okay, so now some people will actually use the pearly whites. There's a lot of different actions in the different sets for teeth, and I personally do not use those. I personally just use the same minimize redness, because what it does is it kind of desaturates it, and I think it's enough. It brightens them up a little bit, and there's not a lot of teeth showing here, so I can't really show you a good example of it, but this I am going to work on just the tiny bit of teeth she has showing here. Okay, and I don't go over these lines here. I just go on the outside, or the inside of them, not over top of the lines. Okay, and just a tiny bit here. Oops. Okay, I'm going to actually zoom out just to make sure that looks good. Okay, so that is the face, and I will show you what it looks like. Okay, before. Oops, let me zoom out a little bit more so you can really see it. Okay, there's the before. I worked on the eyes and face, and there's the after. It's not a huge difference, but it does make a difference. Really brings those eyes out. Okay, before and after. Okay, so the next thing I am going to do, on my seniors, I usually use the Radiance collection, depending on the photo. If it's an outdoor photo with a lot of foliage behind them, I may use some different things, but just one like this, where I don't need a super soft, airy look or a super fall look to it, I usually use the Radiance collection. So I'm going to go down to the Radiance collection, and I'm going to use their Clean Edit color base. But I want to kind of try some of these add-ons with it. So what I'm going to do is, where it says write a recipe, what that does is when you click on it and play on it, it will actually play all of them. Okay? So I am actually going to do that because I don't know which one I want to use. And like I said, this is a blind edit. I don't know exactly what I'm doing yet. I'm just going to see which one looks best. So I'm going to play them all and then turn them on and off and see what we got. So click on write a recipe and press play. Now this will take just a minute because I've kind of got a slow computer. It's time for a new one. So I do so much editing and have so many pictures, and it's just not really that, it's not a fast computer for this type of editing. So what it's doing is it's playing on these all, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go through and turn them on and off and see, because it was in an enclosed area and I was using flash, it kind of flattened it a bit, and kind of just really made the image not look as soft as it should. So I'm going to try to fix that with some of these add-ons. And what happens is the Clean Edit color base um, helps just really bring out everything in the whole picture. Um, Here we go. Okay, so you gotta sometimes look because it'll bring it behind certain layers. So here's the clean edit color base, and this is what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like after. I usually do not mess with the opacity of these bases and foundations, but personally, I think this one did a little bit too much. I could be wrong. I guess it's my own personal preference, but I'm gonna actually bring the opacity down on that until I like it. So I like it. I think I like it right there. It brightens everything up, but yet it doesn't brighten it too much. And as you can see, my histogram is okay there still. Alright, so the next thing is we go back up where we found, or where we have the add-ons for the clean edit, and they're all off at this moment. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to just click them on and see what happens. That, to me, is a little too much. You can bring the opacity down, but I'm not liking that one a lot. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, I kind of like this one, but it's a little bit too much. I'm going to bring the opacity down on that one. Maybe just a little bit more. Maybe to 20%. And I think I'm going to go over here with my brush and bring the brush size up a little bit and kind of paint some of this off. Just so it's not so much darker than the rest. I think that's probably good. Just make sure I got that all. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So, the before and the after. I think I might paint off a little bit off of her face too, because there's a little bit too much contrast in there. There we go. Alright, let's see the next one. Unbridled Light. I kind of like this. It brings a little bit of yellow into her skins, almost like there's sun coming in to that little dark area that she was at. But again, I'm going to bring the opacity down. I don't like it so much. They're so dark. Let's go about 30%. And let's see, maybe painting some of that off of her face. There we go. We don't need a lot off of her face. We need a little bit of sunlight that looks like it's in there. Organically subtle. And yes, it is pronounced subtle, not subtle. I know some people pronounce that subtle. It's not, it's subtle. Okay. So I like that, how it brings a little bit of airy feel into it. Let me check this one though instead. Now, I like this one, I think. But again, I'm going to bring opacity down just a tiny bit on this one, not even a lot. Right about there. But I don't want it on her skin so much, so again, we're going to paint that off. Even some of her hair. Okay. Maybe a little bit more. Paint it off. And just a little bit off of her shirt. And you don't have to be too specific about that. Okay. Alright, so there's a few, I think that's good for that. There's a few things that I will need to find that I like to do, and I think what I'm looking for is, I think it is in Carving Tree, but I'm not sure. I have to, no, I'm actually going to come back to it. There are so many sets in here and so many actions. You really, until you start using it a lot, you have to search and search because you can't remember where what certain things are. Okay, here it is. Soft contrast pop. Okay, so that is in the Woodstock collection. Soft contrast pop. Okay. Alright, play that. Okay. So, as you can see, it just brings a little bit of contrast to everything. Alright, I'm going to paint a little bit off of her face. Okay. Alright, so there it is. Alright, then I'm going to go back to the carving tree and use the dark gray forest. This is a finishing overlay. It will not be my last thing that I do to this, I don't think, but I think that I'm pretty much done. So the dark gray forest, play that, and it'll really do a lot to it, but we're going to paint some of it off of it and bring the opacity down. Okay, definitely paint off her face. We want those natural tones in her face back to where they were. Okay. And as you can see, I'm kind of going over her hair a little bit, but not the whole hair. Okay. Not all of it. Just around her face mainly. Alright. So, I think I like that. The last thing I am going to do is, this is not in the Greater Than Gatsby. Greater Than Gatsby actually has a lot of vignettes that you can put on them, and they're usually at the bottom of each set. As you can see, there you go. You can paint on a vignette, but I like to have a little bit more control. I use a free set that I got, Mullet Gods Action Aplenty. This is about the only one I use anymore other than Greater Than Gatsby, and I use the vignette. So what I usually do is I flatten the layer. Yes, I know there's probably different ways of doing this, but this is just what I'm used to. There's probably a lot of different ways that things can be done, a lot of shortcuts, but it's just that what I'm used to. Alright, so I flattened my image, and I'm going to play the vignette on the Mullet God Action Aplenty. Okay, so here's where I can have a little bit more control over it. I'm going to pull these handles where I want the vignette, or lack of. Inside this circle is where it won't be darkened by the vignette. Outside of the circle is where it will darken some. And this basically puts a darkens. It doesn't put any type of color on it or anything. It's basically a black. Alright, so, and you, not only can you move the handles like this, but you can also just put this in the middle and move this around like that to move your circle. And that is actually how I think I'm going to do it. Bring this down just a little bit. And you can also mess with it when you're done too, because it has a mask. So I think that I'm going to leave it right there. You can either press enter or press this. Okay, and as you can see, there it is. That's not the vignette, that's your masking. Okay, press OK. And there it is. There's your vignette. Now, for me, it's personally way too dark, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. Okay, let's see. And I'm going to move just a little bit more. I'm going to paint a little bit more black in here, because I don't like it, what it's doing right here. So I'm going to paint. Okay, so I've got my black brush. I'm going to bring that up just a little bit and point it off the wall a little bit right there. And yes, my opacity is down some still, and I just want to do it very subtly, just a little bit at a time, so it blends a little bit more. And I think that's good. So here's without the vignette, here's with it. And I think I'm liking that a lot. There are so many other things that you can do with this photo with the greater than Gatsby Photoshop actions. There are so many artistic, cool things you can do with it. But I think that I'm actually just going to keep it like this. It just enhances the picture a little bit. Fixes a little bit of the blunt shadows and flatness that it had. So I will show you. Here is the before. Let me see if I can zoom out a little bit so you showed you the whole thing. That's the before, and this is the after. Before, very flat, and that flash really kills it, because I should have done some bounce flash instead. And then there's the after. That really helps it out a lot. But I wanted to keep it pretty pure to what it was already. Before and after. Just enhances it. Fixes it a little bit. Alright, thank you for watching this tutorial on the Greater Than Gatsby Photoshop actions and a few of the things that I do with a basic, edit. And sorry that this isn't very professional. I haven't done too many videos yet. Thank you for watching. I hope to make more. Goodbye.